Welcome back to the Bet Rivers Cricket Show. How's that? This is your Major League Cricket betting hub with me, Ed Hawkins, cricket handicapper, joined as ever by fellow cricket handicapper John Wright. How you doing, John?
Yeah, not too bad, Ed. Yourself?
Yeah, good. This is the place to be if you want to be following the MLC, all your best picks for the playoffs. This is our playoff preview show. We're going to be looking at the futures market, and we're going to be looking at the first two matches in the playoffs. Best two picks from each of us come at the end of the show, so you've got to stick around. John, shall I start with a futures check-in with Bet Rivers? Because we've got four teams going through to the playoffs. Bet Rivers are going Seattle Orcas plus 150. They finished top of the tree, only lost one game. They're your favourites. Texas Super Kings next best at plus 200. Then MI New York at plus 350, scraped in on net run rate. They've actually finished fourth. And then Washington Freedom plus 450, who we switched sides to because we were on the Unicorns. John, sum it up so far.
Been a good tournament. Really enjoyed it. Very short. It's only been on for a couple of weeks. I think it will grow. I think the quality has been very, very good. There's a big stronghold of South African players in most of these sides and Australian, which I think is a very, very good sign. I think this will develop as years to come. I think more teams will come into it. What we've seen so far, I think Seattle, top of the ladder, have definitely been the best side in it. They've only lost one game, and bizarrely they lost to the weakest side in it, which was the LA Knight Raiders. I think looking at the four teams left, I think Seattle and Texas that play each other in the playoff, the second playoff, I think that could easily be the final. They do look the best two sides in it. I'll be interested in seeing this eliminator. I mean, this is a really interesting one because I do like Washington against Mumbai and New York, but as I say, New York have basically scraped through, and they could be a bit dangerous, especially with the likes of Rashid Khan and Trent Bolt in the side, who have been, well, Trent Bolt especially. I think he's taken 11 wickets in 5 games. He's looked the pick of the bowlers in the tournament, hasn't he, Ed?
Yeah. Let's just tell you how it all sorts out from here. We've got 3 playoff matches, and then we've got a final as well. So Thursday, Freedom will take on Mumbai Indians New York at the Grand Prairie Stadium. We've got a pitch report coming up for that as well. Now, the loser of that is out. And then the winner will go through to face the loser, bear with me, of the Orcas Texas match, which is on Friday. And the winner of that game goes through to the final, where they meet the winner of that Friday game. So your first two teams, which finish in the ladder, they get 2 bites at the cherry, essentially. So Orcas versus Texas, your winner goes straight through to the final. The loser of that then goes through to play the winner of that eliminator, which is Freedom versus New York. How do you want to do it, John? Do you want to go through the games first, or do you want to have a go through the futures? Because I've got some stats on the futures market which might help people.
Yeah. Let's do the futures first, and then we'll do the individual matches. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, let's look at the futures then. We'll try and break this down for you. We think the key metrics in T20 franchise leagues are bowling economy and 6 hitting ability. So Orcas, who finished first in the league ladder, 8.6 with the bat, your run rate 7.8, and then 33 sixes. Texas 7.9, 7.4, and 34 sixes. Washington, who came third, 7.9, 7.8, and just 21 sixes. Now, about 80% of matches in T20 are won by the team hitting the most sixes. So that could be crucial. But the Dallas pitch may have a say as well. We'll come to that in a second. Then Mumbai Indians, 8.8, best run rate of the 4, and then 7.8 economy rate with the ball, and then 47 sixes. So on those numbers, Mumbai Indians have really turned up the heat. They had a bit of a dodgy start, but they've got better and better as the tournament has gone on, and they appear to have the best numbers on that futures market. But they do have to win basically 3 games in a row to win the tournament. And I suspect at plus 350, doesn't equate to them winning 3 games on the spin, John. As a former odds compiler, 3 games on the spin for New York too much, and should they be bigger than plus 350 to do that?
They definitely should be bigger. Just on probability, they definitely should be bigger than the 350. As you say, they've got to win every game now. They've got to win those 3 games on the bounce. A bit of an injury worry to Kyron Pollard. He picked up an injury last night. I don't know whether he's going to be fit. That will definitely affect their 6 hitting ability. I think he's hit 9 of those 47 or 48 sixes that New York have hit in this tournament. But I do worry about Washington. I mean, Washington generally haven't really scored enough runs. I mean, they've got 150 in this tournament. I think Matt Short got a 50. He scored an 80. And as you say, they've only hit a very low number of sixes, even though they hit a lot more 4s than most sides. But I think their lack of 6 hitting ability could be a problem. But I do think that New York, they've still got it all to do. But I think when you've got the likes in your bowling armory of Rashid Khan and Trent Boult, it does give you a massive opportunity.
Yeah. What will be absolutely crucial in the MLC going forward in these playoffs is the Grand Prairie Stadium in Dallas. The pitch there is a very, very heavy toss bias. The team batting first, it's 7 of the last 8. So it's basically this tournament, win the toss, bat first, win the game. 160 in first innings has been busted 5 times. So it could well be that the toss has a major say in who wins this title, particularly when we get to the final. Bear that in mind. However, when you've got a toss bias like that and you've got 2 teams who get 2 bites at the cherry, it suggests that Seattle, Orcas plus 150 and Texas Super Kings plus 200, absolutely the right favourites for this. It's pretty short on Orcas, but they're absolutely terrific, particularly on when was it? Tuesday night. Henrik Klassen getting a fantastic century, and they are the team to beat. Best picks coming at the end of the show. Give us some love on the podcast provider of your choice, please. Give us a follow at Because We Win on Twitter. Do we still call it Twitter? I don't know. It's something called X these days. At John Wright 15 and myself at Cricket Betting. Thursday, Freedom versus MI New York. Bet Rivers line, money line for you, John. Let's try and decipher a winner here. Washington Freedom plus 130, MI New York minus 130. May I suggest if the toss goes in Mumbai's favour and they are batting first and that's 6 hitting ability, then they win this game.
Agreed, totally agree. I think that's going to be the problem with Washington, just their lack of runs, lack of 6 hitting ability. My other worry with Washington as well is that, their kingpin bowling unit. I mean, Heinrich Nortje's got 2 wickets in this tournament in 5 games, which is not good enough. And, compared with Boult, who's got 11. So that does worry me a little bit. I mean, the top bowler for Washington, I'd definitely be looking at someone like Marco Jansen, who's bowled a lot better. He's got 8 wickets so far in the tournament. So that's a little bit of a worry. I mean, as I say, I think it's just a case of whether they turn up, really, New York. And as I say, the bowling for me is where Boult could, especially in the power play overs, Trent Boult, there isn't there probably isn't a better seam bowler in the world, is there, in power play overs? So he'll be the trump card for them. But then again, I mean, look at Miami's top of the order. They're batting. Mumbai, New York, the top of the order batting. Apart from Nicky Paran, who's got over 200 runs in the tournament and striking well, there hasn't been anyone at the top of the order, has there? They've relied pretty much on the likes of Pollard and Tim David in the middle order to sort of get them competitive. And they've only won 2 games in. Yeah.
MI New York won this head-to-head, by the way, by 8 wickets. They chased 160 rather comfortably, actually, with almost 4 over to spare. Nicholas Paran, who you mentioned there, 62 off 33 in that game. Basically, Paran moving up to number 3 has transformed Mumbai's form because their top order just wasn't working early in the tournament. They didn't really work out their best balance. Potential top bats for Freedom, Matt Short, Andres Goose opening the batting. John, Glenn Phillips at number 4 is a big power player. Probably has been a little bit disappointing, actually. Enriquez as well. These guys are big 6 hitters. It's strange that they've not hit the 6s. And I think also Marco Jansen's been batting too low at number 8. I thought Jansen was a guy to get in as early as you can when it comes to death. And I thought he might be valued at around about sort of plus 2,500, maybe plus 3,000 for top run scorer, but it's not happened for him. So it's weird that they're not hitting the 6s, and that's why I switched to them after the Unicorns, because I thought they'd really come to the fore, but they've not managed it.
No, Matt Short was MVP in the Big Bash this year. He was fantastic, wasn't he? And although he got that 80 in one of the games, they've just struggled with the runs. They don't seem to like Josh Philippe. I thought he might have got more of a game. And did you say the Australians? Moses Enriquez hasn't really fired. Glenn Phillips, we put him up, many a time as a key player in white ball cricket. He seems to, he never seem to get a game for the Sunrisers, and I thought this will be his opportunity in this franchise to really sort of promote himself. But he's been a little bit disappointing as well in the 5 games. So yeah, as I say, I think possibly it's a bizarre to say this, but even though they've only won the 2 games, you would have said that probably the impetus might be with New York. Yeah.
Pollard's fitness important but not crucial, because they brought David Vietzer in, so they still have 5 bowlers if they don't have Pollard. Ordinarily we're a bit alarmed by only 5 bowlers, but I think if the toss bias here is in Mumbai's favour, we probably expect them to get through, and minus 130 is not too bad a price. Let's look at that Friday game then. And this decides which team goes through to the final, and the loser, as we said earlier, meets that winner of that Freedom MI New York match. It's Orcas versus Texas for the final spot. Top 2, of course, in the league season, John. Orcas have lost only once. I'm just trying to find the money line for you now, but just give us an overview of these teams once I've found that.
I think it's minus 130 Seattle and plus 100 Texas, which I think is probably about spot on. As you say, Ed, Seattle have only lost the 1 game when they bizarrely got beat to the worst team in it, which is the Knight Riders. They've been very consistent. Have been heavily reliant on Klassen. Klassen's got a lot of runs, hasn't he? He's got like 230 runs in 5 games. And as you say, that 110 he scored on Tuesday night off of 44 balls was blistering. My only worry would be that 110 come out of a 195 chase, and there was a lot of people fouled in that chase. My worry is if Quinton de Kock hasn't got a hell of a lot of runs, has he? And if Klassen was to fail, I would be a little bit worried about that top order that might be sort of more reliant on people like Imam Wazim coming in, or even Dwayne Pretorius getting runs in the middle order. So I think they're probably heavily reliant on Klassen because he has got majority of their runs. Texas seems to be more of a, they're a bit of a more of a team, I would suppose. I like their middle order. I think the fact that you've got Miller and then Santner, Bravo, Sams. There's a real sort of like engine room in that middle order, and at the top of the order you've got Devon Conway, who's probably one of the best white ball T20 openers around, and Faf Duplessis opening with him, which he's been brilliant in IPL the last 2 years, hasn't he? So I actually think the Texas side, if you actually go down it, does look a shade stronger, but they're both good sides, and I wouldn't be surprised if they contest the final at the end.
Yeah, on the data that we mentioned earlier, there's almost nothing to choose between these teams. If you're on Orcas, it's probably because their batting rate is the second best in the tournament at 8.6. But this is the best bowling economy team in Texas at 7.4. Now that probably cancels each other out. And also they're absolutely neck to neck with the 6s as well. 33 for Orcas, 34 for Texas, going back to that statistic about more than 80% of T20 games won by the side who hits the most sixes. So it could just basically be as simple as, John, do we back the team here who has the toss bias in their favour? Batting first, as it's 7 out of 8. Do we do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's almost a pick'ems match as we look at it at the moment. But as you say, whoever wins the toss, you probably want to be with them, with it, especially with the bias at that particular venue. As you say, 7 out of 8 teams that batted first have won. So, yeah, I totally agree. But I mean, I do think that Texas actually look more, even though Seattle are top of the ladder and have only lost the one game, I do think that Texas, the balance of their side, you know, if one of those 2 or 3 of those guys, like Faf, for instance, he hasn't really done much in the tournament so far.
Yeah, really
but
poor,
they still managed to churn out the runs. I just worry a little bit Seattle if Klassen was to fail, where the runs would come from.
Okay, good stuff. Give us a follow at Because We Win to win across all sports. Give John a follow at John Wright 15 and myself at Cricket Betting. This is the MLC Betting Hub. It's the preview show for the playoffs. We're going to run through those futures markets for you one more time with Bet Rivers, and then we're going to give you best picks for this tournament. Orcas are the favourites to win it at plus 150 with Bet Rivers. Texas Super Kings plus 200. MI New York plus 350. We think that's a little bit mean considering they have to win 3 games in a row to lift the title. And then Washington Freedom plus 450. John, let's go to best picks for you. Pick out 2 for us for the MLC.
What, for the matches, Ed, or for the
futures matches? Could be anything you like. Yeah.
Well, I think in the first eliminator, the New York versus Washington, I think you've got to look at the bowling there for that. And as I say, there's one market there. Trent Boult at plus 275 to be top wicket taker in that particular match. Bearing in mind he's got 11 wickets, so he's averaging over 2 a game. I mean, if he gets 2 in this game, I mean, you're almost guaranteed a dead heat, aren't you? So I mean, I think that's a big price, even though he's up against Rashid Khan. So I'm going to go. They're both 275, but I think on the basis of the form in this tournament, Trent Boult deserves to be favourite. So top Mumbai, New York bowler, I'm going to go for Trent Boult at plus 275, and then in the batting for Washington, I do think that Washington batting is heavily reliant on Matt Short. So I think if you can get anything between sort of like plus 333 or maybe even plus 350, Matt Short, I think he deserves to be favourite in that particular lineup, and I think they're going to need him to score runs to be competitive in the game. So Matt Short, top batsman for Washington in that game. That'll be my second bet.
Okay, my 2 picks for you, a bit dull from me, but pretty much stats based and trends based. MI New York beat Washington Freedom if the toss goes their way. So they need to be batting first. They hit more sixes. They've got a better metrics. So we expect that minus 130 on the Bet Rivers money line to hold regardless of what happens at the toss. And Seattle Orcas versus Texas Super Kings on the Friday. That will be one, I think, by the team which bats first as well. So we expect that market to hold. Let's hope it's the Super Kings who go off plus 100, giving us the better price. There you go. That's the Major League Cricket Betting Hub done for you. We've covered the playoffs. We think we've given you some good insight there. Don't forget to join us next time for more cricket betting value. See you then.